Hey, the owls are not what they seem. What's up? And today I'm going to do a review on the classic murder mystery TV show Twin Peaks Season 2. Aired in 1991, the same year Nirvana's Nevermind is released. That's how old it is. At least it's old in terms of television. So basically, Laura Palmer was murdered and Agent Cooper was sent to Twin Peaks to investigate on her death. And a lot of weird things happened concerning criminals, love triangles, secret societies, and dreams. But all in all, what we got from Season 1 is that Jacques Renault and Leo Johnson are connected to Laura's death and Renette's damage. And also, Audrey's dad, Ben Horn, and Norma's ex-girlfriend, Hank, are bad guys. And last season left off with a really sudden and random cliffhanger where Agent Cooper simply gets shot by someone mysterious. The first episode is 1.5 hours long, just like the pilot episode, and the first scene is the last few scenes that we left off in Season 1, and they are also incredibly mind-boggling and unexplainable and strange and Lynchian, given that David Lynch co-wrote and directed Twin Peaks. So Dale Cooper was shot, and this old waiter walked in normally as if everything's fine, and Agent Cooper wasn't actually dying, and he acted so calmly it was kind of eerie. And then Giant showed up out of the blue telling Cooper that there was a man in a smiling bag, the owls were not what they seem, and without chemicals, he points. And also Leo in the hungry horse, and that's so random and strange, I don't know. But I'm looking forward to see how these things make sense in the future. And then after a few boring and random scenes that just feel so unnecessarily stretched, we reached the ending, which is disturbing and ominous as hell. The Giant returns and told Cooper he forgot something, and then Renette had a dream where she sees Bob and Laura, screaming with blood in their mouths, and the light kept on flashing. But other than the boring scenes with the long pauses and curiously irrelevant dialogues, which I think is artistic in some levels, but it's not what I would prefer, this episode is all good. Anyway, episode 2 is even more scary and disturbing with its weird and ominous Bob scenes where Bob magically appears out of nowhere and starts to laugh. And it gets even more ominous when Donna goes to this very weird house with one very, very old woman and one very strange and silent boy who knows magic somehow. And then we have those strange scenes where the refrain, "the owls are not what they seem," keeps being reminded of. And I'm still crossing my fingers that the show will reveal all the answers at the end. And the ending is also pretty nice where Audrey got into trouble because of her crazy investigations. Okay, so here's the thing. It took me so long to write the script for Twin Peaks Season 2 review. And my phone glitched out, and the script is gone. So episode 1 and episode 2 reviews are still here, but since episode 3, all my reviews are deleted. So I'm gonna be a little improvised on this video because I'm not even bothered to rewrite the entire script for the entire season. Okay, it's 23 episodes, I think. So I'm just gonna read through the Wikia page and tell you my thoughts in a very raw fashion. All right, so yeah, it's gonna be completely improvised, this review. So let's talk about Harold Smith, which is a very strange character. Something's really off with him. The first time I saw him, I'm already like, there's something weird going on with this guy. And yeah, he's a really weird guy, and he's hiding a diary of Laura Palmer, a second diary, in fact, and that's really interesting. And then we also have, what's the name again? Audrey was tied up by Blackie and Emery in the in the One-Eyed Jacks. And again, it's really interesting and suspenseful. How will Audrey survive? And then on to episode 11, which is season 2, episode 4. It's titled Laura's Secret Diary, very fitting title. And we have this new character called M.T. Wentz, and apparently this is like a very famous food critic, and he's from Seattle, and he is a very mysterious character as well. And then towards the, like in the next few episodes, the character of M.T. Wentz will be revealed as another character, and it's a really good plot twist in my opinion. And then Josie returned, of course. Emery and Blackie continue to kidnap Audrey. And then we have this feud between Andy and Dick, which who also fell in love with Lucy, and that's in the more comedic side of things. And because Josie's back, there was this Asian man who was watching Josie and the people around her, and that also adds on to the strangeness and the suspense of the story. Episode 12 is The Orchid's Curse, which is actually a really interesting and suspenseful episode, I remember. There were multiple attempts where Donna tries to steal Laura Palmer's secret diary from Harold Smith, and both attempts are also very suspenseful and very scary, especially the last scene. Very, very scary. And then, of course, another person who was suspected to be M.T. Wentz is apparently a Japanese man called Mr. Tajamura. And again, there will be a reveal about this character very soon, and it's just really interesting how this goes. And there was also a really suspenseful and fun scene where Cooper and Harry Truman went into the One-Eyed Jacks in an attempt to save Audrey, and they succeeded in a very unexpected way. So I really enjoyed this episode. And again, the ending freaked the shit out of me. It's insane. And then we have episode 13, Demons. And then a new storyline spawned, and that is the Wyndham Earl storyline that plays a very key role towards the end of the series. And not much to say about this episode. Not much. Okay, yeah, this is also really interesting. So Gerard, who is apparently the one-armed man, suddenly had a seizure, like he was supposed to inject himself with some sort of drug or something in order to stop his other self to appear. But this time, Cooper and Truman stopped Gerard from injecting himself, so he became Mike. And he told them about Bob, and that is a really interesting scene where a glimpse of the deeper truth appear. And and then it's Lonely Souls, which is probably the best episode so far because it's so intense. The last scene, also very, very devastating. Before that, Audrey woke up. Audrey's fine, and Audrey told Ben about the One-Eyed Jacks, and that's when Ben had a character arc where he turns kinda good, but in a funny way. And then later on, the Log Lady appeared and took Cooper and Harry to the Roadhouse, which is like a bar. At the same time, Maddie was at Ben's house. And then, I'm gonna just throw in a spoiler alert. Apparently Ben is Bob. that is a really forced reveal, to be honest, but that's also really interesting, because apparently Laura's dad raped and killed Laura, which is really dark, to be honest, but apparently because of Maddie's leaving, Bob showed up and killed Maddie, and when Maddie died, the giant reappeared in front of Cooper, and he kept repeating, "It is happening again, it is happening again," and it's a very dark, very grim, very odd. And then it's Drive with a Dead Girl. Again, minor spoiler alert, but Laura's killer is already revealed last episode, and now it's getting more and more obvious. And yeah, there's this whole really, really comedic and awkward storyline where Andy was testing his sperm, his fertility, and it's really awkward. It's really comedic. It's I guess it's okay. It's not a bad storyline or anything. And of course, there's also a very memorable scene where Pete, who was Catherine's wife, went to visit Ben because Ben was now in custody because he was suspected for Laura Palmer's murder, but in fact he didn't murder Laura Palmer. So that's really interesting. And then it's episode 16, Arbitrary Law, which is frankly probably my favorite Twin Peaks episode so far. If season 3 is not included, and probably the best Twin Peaks episode so far. And spoiler alert. So Donna went into Leland's house. Yeah, I'm sorry, by the way, it's Leland, not Ben. So Leland, he is Bob. That is revealed 2 episodes ago, and then Donna didn't know it. Everyone didn't know it, in fact. And Donna went into Leland's house, and Leland was a little agitated, and he was starting to become Bob, and he was about to kill Donna, which is very, very suspenseful. And then they got interrupted by like a doorbell ring, and that was a huge relief. And then they brought Leland Palmer to the roadhouse where this big Bob reveal is going to take place. And then it took place. Cooper got his ring back, apparently. And then, Cooper and Truman Cooper already knew who was Bob after that big reveal, but everyone didn't know it yet. So they said, Cooper said, Ben is the killer, but he wasn't actually the killer, and Leland came along, and then as they were about to shove Ben into a cell, Cooper and Truman just threw Leland into the cell and got Ben out immediately. And that was such an epic scene. It escalated really quickly. It's really, really well written, and damn, at the end, Leland was tied to a chair. He was Bob, and he banged his head against a wall, and he died. And before, Bob was gone already, and Leland, he was himself again, and Cooper was comforting him, telling him that he will see his daughter again, and that was a really sad and powerful scene, in my opinion, and I just really, really like it. Alright, we're already on episode 10 of season 2, Dispute Between Brothers. This is where a completely new storyline pops up. So, because of the whole Laura Palmer case, it's over. Cooper was about to leave, but then he couldn't leave because there were also a few FBI agents who wanted him to stay because apparently he committed some sort of crime. But actually, it's all a set up by Jean Renault. And again, suspense. It's there. It's a pretty decent episode, not gonna lie. Also, minor spoiler alert, but apparently Garland breaks Major Briggs, Garland Briggs, father of Bobby Briggs, disappeared last episode, and everyone's just freaking out. It gets really weird. I like how, even though the whole Laura Palmer case is closed, there was still something deeper beyond that. And then there's this very again, another very awkward and comedic storyline where Nadine had an amnesia and she thought she was still in her teenage years. I feel like this storyline is a little out of place. Maybe it's a little too unnecessary. It kind of feels like a filler storyline, so I didn't really care for it that much. And then we still have the Wyndham Earl storyline, which gets even more interesting. Alright, and then it's episode 12, The Black Widow. Things get way more interesting when David Duchovny entered the show as a man pretending to be a woman. And damn, didn't see that coming. Didn't see that coming. And again, Wyndham Earl is coming. It's very scary. And then towards the end of the episode, I think, Garland reappeared in the house, and it's very crazy, again, very unexplainable, very strange and random, and I hoped for more answers. And then it's episode 13, Checkmate, and because Nadine's having an amnesia and she had a crush with Mike from school, Ed and Norma was getting back together. I thought that is a couple that at first, when I first watched Twin Peaks, when I saw Ed and Nadine being together, I was it feels kind of questionable, because that is not like a good, rootable couple, but instead, Ed and Norma being together makes a lot more sense. And then, again, Leo was a vegetable man for like half of the season, and Leo's beginning to move a little bit, which is very scary. It scared the hell out of Shelley and Bobby, and that's also a really strange scene that I wish could be answered and explored even more. And the ending of the episode is absolutely genius. We have Truman and Cooper basically wanted to arrest Jean Renault and his other partners in crime, and Denise went undercover and became pretended to be a drug dealer, and again, shit went down. Everything went out of control, and then suddenly, they forced Cooper to be captured. By they I mean Jean and his friends, and then I'm not gonna spoil it. And then it's episode 14, Double Play. Another storyline that first felt very interesting and very thoughtful, but the more I go into the storyline, the more I realize that this storyline is perhaps another filler storyline that's really unnecessary, and that is the whole Evelyn storyline, where Evelyn met James, and apparently Evelyn's husband was abusive to Evelyn, and James wanted to help Evelyn, and then this whole affair happened. It's kind of crazy. But then, and then there's another plot twist in this storyline that's actually pretty well written, but again, in the full picture, this storyline doesn't really serve anything to the entire Twin Peaks lore. And there's also this whole Andrew Packard thing. Again, another plot twist. A lot of twists and turns in Twin Peaks Season 2. I'm loving it. But apparently there's this person called Thomas Eckhart, and apparently Thomas Eckhart was trying to catch Josie, and Josie was trying to escape from Thomas Eckhart, and now, Pete and, again, spoiler alert, Catherine's actually alive. Pete and Catherine wanted to, lure Thomas Eckhart into Twin Peaks and somehow kill him, maybe? That's pretty crazy. Episode 15, Slaves and Masters, is perhaps also one of the highlight episodes of the entire season. Despite that, there's still this very, very dumb storyline. Probably my least favorite storyline of the entire Twin Peaks, which is the whole, Dwayne and his wife thing. Like, apparently his wife had made love with with the husband, and then the husband died, and the husband's brother blamed the wife for it, but in a very comedic way. It's really awkward, it's really out of place, and it's such a weak and cheap storyline. I didn't care for it at all. What I really like, however, probably not everyone likes it, but I kind of like it, is the character arc of Benjamin Horne, where he started to pretend to be in the Civil War ages, and he's reenacting the Civil Wars, the American Civil War, and I thought that's pretty interesting. It's comedic and Lynchian kind of comedic, and that is the thing. And I was wrong. Apparently, the highlight of the season I was talking about was actually episode 16, The Condemned Woman. I'm gonna have to give a spoiler alert for that. So, first of all, Wyndham Earl gave Donna, Shelley, and Audrey, like, pieces of poems, and, Wyndham Earl was trying to get them, and, trying to kill them as well, which is really suspenseful. At first, Wyndham Earl doesn't feel intimidating at all, but now he's beginning to feel scary and dangerous, and I just like how his character gets more and more creepy throughout time. And of course, we have the ending, which is, again, very devastating. I didn't know that Josie's gonna die this way. But, again, Andrew Packard is alive, apparently, and then Thomas Eckhart appeared, and he saw Andrew Packard, and he was like, how? And then Thomas Eckhart, was about to, like, fight Josie or kill Josie, but before he does it, Josie shot Thomas Eckhart, and Thomas Eckhart died. And, Truman and Cooper was about to save Josie, but, Josie shot Thomas Eckhart first. And then suddenly Josie died out of nowhere. And apparently Josie tried to kill Cooper last season. Apparently the shooter is her. And, Truman really loved Josie. So, Truman was very conflicted by the end of the scene. And, when Josie died, Bob showed up, and the dwarf from the other place showed up. And, it's like, mystery and crime very well mixed together. And then we have, Wounds and Scars, episode 17. I like how human the whole show makes Harry Truman to be, like Harry Truman at first, like those 90s TV shows, they usually make characters very dead, very, one-dimensional, but Harry's character is not one-dimensional at all, because, after the incident, last episode, Harry was very heartbroken, and there's also this very interesting storyline that leaves a huge plot hole by the end, because it never concluded, is that, Nikki, apparently, Dick and, Andy, they became friends, sort of, and they were trying to investigate if Nikki was actually the devil or not. I thought that was pretty funny, but then again, it never revealed if he's actually, like, some sort of weird, possessed creature or not. It's really weird. And then there's this whole, Miss Twin Peaks thing, which is the exactly how, Wyndham Earl wants to execute his plan, so that's pretty suspenseful. And then there's episode 18, where Truman and Cooper discovered scars, weird-looking scars like tattoos on Garland Briggs and Log Lady, who both disappeared because of this whole White Lodge, Black Lodge thing. and that leads them into an owl cave, which Wyndham Earl also later went to, and that is really interesting. And again, it kind of loses focus on the previous few episodes, but this episode kind of picks up the pace a little more, and I just kind of like it. And of course, Ben went back to normal and stopped the whole Civil War reenactment thing, and yeah. And then we have episode 19, I think. Yep, it's 19. Variations on Relations. And we get more information about the Black and White Lodge that is tied to Laura Palmer's death and the appearance of Bob and Mike. And things happened to Thomas Eckhart, and Thomas Eckhart kind of gave Catherine and Pete this mysterious box that was really locked up, and it's pretty crazy. And then Gordon Cole appears, of course, Gordon Cole, played by David Lynch, and he kissed Shelley right in front of Bobby, and that pissed Bobby off a lot. I really like that scene. It's very Lynchian. Of course, David Lynch is in the scene. Of course, it's Lynchian. But, it's a pretty funny scene, not gonna lie. Is it like David Lynch's decision to like kiss Machen Amick? But anyway, next is episode 20, The Path to the Black Lodge. Again, Wyndham Earl was supposed to be like sticking to the rules of his game, and then Wyndham Earl went off his rules and started to go ape shit, and started to do all sorts of weird and unexpected things, and that is creepy and freaky. And apparently this is the second last episode. People's hands are shaking. Oh yeah, if you don't know this, Audrey had an affair with another person, but then that person's about to leave. That person's name is Jack. And, before Jack leaves, Audrey, ran towards Jack, and, they made love, and, that's really emotional. And, Pete was also there to witness it, and Pete kind of teared up, and that's really, really interesting. And then it's the penultimate episode, The Night of the Decision, which is, absolutely nuts. First of all, we have the metal box where Thomas Eckhart kind of left behind, and they somehow cracked open the box, and there were also more boxes inside the boxes. Pretty crazy. And then there's this Miss Twin Peaks thing, which is exactly how Wyndham Earl wanted to execute his plan. And by the way, there's this affair between Cooper and between Agent Cooper and Annie Blackburn, and I thought that at first I thought Cooper and Audrey is gonna be the couple of the show, but no, apparently it's Cooper and Annie. And before Wyndham Earl wanted to capture Donna or Shelley or Audrey, now he only wanted to capture Annie, because apparently fear is the opening to the Black Lodge. Fear is the way. So there's this Miss Twin Peaks contest, and then things happened. I'm giving a spoiler alert. So yeah, things happened. Suddenly the lights went off, and then on again and off again, and it's flashing, flashing lights. It's a classic David Lynch move, characteristic. And then Annie was captured, and that was scary as hell. And then we move on to the last episode, which is honestly another really probably the most abstract TV episode I've ever watched, ever. And easily one of the most mind-boggling and mind-bending episodes of the entire Twin Peaks season. Although there are a lot of plot holes, I'm throwing in a spoiler alert. So, before, there's this scene where Dr. Hayward, which is Donna's dad, fought Ben because Ben wanted to, get his wife, basically. Because apparently, Donna is actually Okay, yeah, it's a I'm giving a spoiler. I gave a spoiler alert, right? So apparently Donna's dad is actually Ben. Apparently, I don't know for sure, but that's really crazy. Another plot twist. But almost bit myself. And then there's also the scene where Nadine got his memory back, and oh boy, and she's pissed. And then, of course, we have the most important storyline, where Cooper was trying to get Annie back and save her from the Black Lodge. And that was, like that literally covered, 75% of the entire episode. Before that, we also have the scene where Audrey locked himself in the bank, and then Pete came, and then Pete finally unlocked the box and saw a key, and the key leads them to a bank vault, and then in the vault there was a bomb, and it explodes, and I don't know if Pete had died or Audrey had died or not, but that's pretty crazy. But that kind of ends off. I think that's a pretty good cliffhanger. But then there's a plot hole. It isn't a cliffhanger. It's literally a plot hole, and that is the whole Leo Johnson thing. So Leo Johnson was awake and manipulated by Wyndham Earl the whole time, although he kind of rebelled Wyndham Earl a little bit at the end, and Wyndham Earl tied his teeth to a cage full of spiders, and then that's it. It ends off like that, which is a pretty abrupt ending, to be honest. And then there's the whole hands trembling thing, which is really weird, and we never really had any answers for that. And then we have Coop entering the Black Lodge. That is the pie of the entire season. Wow. But so walking into the Black Lodge, she had to do it alone, which makes up for some extremely strange scenes. First of all, a porcupine tree, I think. That is a really great intro into this Lynchian world. And then the dwarf showed up. It's pretty crazy. You get these red curtains. It's really strange and suspenseful, and it feels like, Coop has entered the deeper end of the world of fear and evilness. It's crazy. And then there was this waiting room in the Black Lodge where Coop sat down on the couch, and on another couch, the dwarf sat down, and the dwarf gave him coffee, and the coffee was solid sometimes, and was oil sometimes, and was actual coffee sometimes. That's really weird. It feels like there's some sort of metaphor behind it. And then the giant showed up, the waiters showed up, all sorts of people showed up, and then the fake Laura Palmer in the Black Lodge showed up, and apparently it's Maddie. I don't know if it's actually Maddie or Laura Palmer, but it's definitely their doppelganger in the Black Lodge. And this whole doppelganger concept is very important in the Black Lodge, because apparently everyone had a doppelganger, an evil doppelganger. So yes, after Coop met all the nice guys, of course, the evil version of those guys showed up, because it's their doppelgangers, and it's really fucking scary. The scariest scene of the entire show is that scene. Is that scene when the evil Laura was like, meanwhile, and then suddenly he screams, and with flashing lights, and that scene really freaked me out a lot. And then Coop was a little scared at first, and then he tried to go to another room, but however he kept so there's this waiting room, alright, and then there's this corridor to another room, but he went there, it's the same waiting room, and he went back and forth so many times, it's still the same room, until he walked backwards, and then he went into this new room, very crazy, where Wyndham Earl and Annie showed up. And Wyndham Earl was like, I'm gonna take your soul. And then Bob showed up, and Bob was like, you can't take someone's soul, so instead I will take yours. So Bob killed Wyndham Earl. And then suddenly, the evil Coop showed up, and then he and Annie stormed out of the Black Lodge. And now the real Coop is stuck in the Black Lodge. So Coop returned. And the next morning, Coop woke up, and it's the evil Coop. It's not the actual Coop. and he acted really strangely, and then he was about to brush his teeth in the mirror, and before he does that, he asked Dr. Hayward and Truman if Annie was okay, and then he went to the bathroom and he was brushing his teeth, and he suddenly banged his head against the mirror, cracks it, it's bleeding, and he was like, how's Annie? How's Annie? How's Annie? And that was really scary. Wow. What's even scarier is that apparently it's not that Bob is vulnerable, is Leland is vulnerable. When Leland died, Bob literally banged Leland's head against the wall and Leland died. But this time, when Bob banged Coop's head against the wall, he didn't die, which means Bob is stronger now. And that's really crazy. And, yeah, but still, I'm rooting for Annie a lot, and I don't know how will Coop escape, but, damn, what a season finale. What a season finale. So, overall, Twin Peaks Season 2, I'm running out of time here. Twin Peaks Season 2 is a roller coaster of lots of different storylines and many different characters bleeding into one another. It's very complicated and very strange and surreal and abstract, and very metaphorical as well sometimes. But what I really love about this season is there are way more twists and turns, and the characters are way more humanized, and it feels like Mark Frost and David Lynch wanted every character to have at least some use in the entire story, and that really worked out really well. And that just leaves me expecting for more. Although this season loses focus in the middle, and there were a few filler storylines that I didn't like at all, but other than that, it's still a very solid season that has some of the strangest, most mysterious, and yet cinematic storylines in the history of TV shows. So, yeah, the worst, I already don't know the worst. The worst is Masked Ball, I think, and the best is Arbitrary Law. I'm giving Twin Peaks Season 2 an 8 out of 10. So, have you watched Twin Peaks Season 2 from 1 to 10? How much did you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more.